Okay, we're just going to go ahead and start. Welcome, everybody. This is the inaugural episode of the Huntsmen Podcast, where we delve into things, where we try to seek out the truth and wisdom, and just talk about daily topics and things that strike our fancy. We like to talk about things that are the unexplained or out of the ordinary. Today, we're going to be talking about COVID-19 and the news media response and just in general COVID-19. So, Drew, this is a topic kind of close to this is what you wanted to talk about. So I'm going to let you go ahead and kick it off.
Yes, good evening. My name is Drew. We're here with Curtis and Yvonne on this inaugural voyage of the Huntsmen Podcast. Today is Sunday, December 13th, 2020. And one of the things that for our initial show we wanted to talk about was news journalism, the response to or of journalism and reporting of COVID-19 in the United States and the effect that it's had, both good and bad. Now, I wanted to start off with there's a difference between news journalism and news reporting. Reporting is when someone will go and actually find the information themselves. There was a gentleman, a retired old newspaper guy from the Orlando Sun-Star, I believe was the name of the paper. His first name was Charles or Charlie, I don't remember which. And he actually brought this up. He fleshed this out about 20 years ago in one of his, he had retired and was doing like a bi-weekly op-ed for that print media. And he mentioned that he had gone, and one of the first things he learned about reporting was to go to, there was a question about a sheriff's department charging, their bail schedule was a little different than the state had allowed. And anyway, this gentleman had gone, it was a jail in a small county in Florida, and he had gone and he actually went to the jail and did his research and contacted the bail bondsman and, made some other checks and, kind of got the matter resolved that way, where it was within the right bail schedule for people that were incarcerated, that were, pending trial. And journalism today is kind of taken on a different 180 of that portion of news reporting in the regard of you can go and they're not really reporting, they're taking information from other sources and putting that out as their own. There was all three of us, so two of us live in the Midwestern portion of the United States, and one of the local journalists had gone, and our new television reporters had gone and went out to a scene of a shooting, of a crime scene, and the initial information was very sketchy, and this is right on as the internet was just starting to boom and open to the point where we could go and ask, send in questions and say, hey, what's going on with this or that or the other thing that had happened. And his response was, I'll never forget this, police yet. I don't know what's really going on. And I wanted to say, well, why don't you grab a camera guy, go out, change your clothes, and go knock on doors and talk to people that saw this thing. I didn't. But that's kind of the flesh or the reality of what journalism is today. News reporting is dead. It's gone. It's not going to come back until citizen reporters such as us start to look at this in a more pragmatic light than of just taking something that someone said as unproven as gospel, which I don't think is a really good idea as far as getting information out. Yvonne, would you like to add something to
that? No, I mean, I think it's a very interesting concept, especially in today's world. Kind of what your point was, going back to the early days of the internet. I think over the many years, we've just kind of accepted that what we hear and see is kind of factual. But at the end of the day, what we know is really perspective spin, if you will. And I think that's kind of the point where you're getting between, journalism and, the media and various sources of that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I just didn't want to drop that on you. Sorry. It's like the instructor at a course of instruction going,
I know.
if you ask the question, you answer it yourself. You don't go, well, what do you think about this?
Well, it's
Hey guys, it's our first episode. Give us a break.
With the advent of the internet, though,
Mhm.
anyone could start a blog, and anyone could post anything they want to, and they could.
And just because it's on the internet doesn't mean that it's right either.
That's true, but they don't have to verify their sources.
Mhm.
They don't have to.
Of course not. No.
Prove to anybody that it's accurate, so they can basically say anything they want to. And I think the media has kind of taken that step, with regards to just about anything. When we talk about COVID-19, I don't know what the real numbers are. So sometimes I think the numbers can be skewed, because I think when you talk about money and deaths from COVID-19, are they getting money if they have X amount of deaths from COVID-19? Is it encouraging them to say that if somebody died from something that wasn't COVID related, to say, oh, it's COVID related, because they're going to get a kickback for stuff, whether it's money or whether it's assistance or whatever. So does it benefit them to have more COVID deaths than that actually are? And I don't know. But you could say anything you want to, really. I mean, anyone could, theoretically.
Where no accountability, right?
Exactly.
Being a news source, an official news source, I think there's some accountability to fact check, but we've gotten so far away from that, even with the gotcha headlines. There's a lot of, kind of outrageous headlines just to kind of grab your attention, but the content, if you read it, has nothing to do with the headline. So it just skews the perception of everything. So there are no trusted sources anymore. And I don't know of anyone in my lifetime that ever trusted the government. Now you can't trust the news media. Now there's so many platforms out there that it's so much noise that it's bogging people down, and it's creating a lot of frustration that's coming out in many different ways.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Reagan, former President Reagan, had a really great saying: "Trust but verify." Which brings me up to my next little bullet point here about. Well, actually, I've got, and this is not in any particular order. These are just thoughts that came off the top of my head. Developing initial and follow-up information from the best sources. Going back to my original statement of the local news guy, waiting to be basically, and I don't want to say, for lack of a better word, spoon fed, but getting the information from the police and saying, well, this is what happened. Well, go, like I said, grab a camera guy, change your clothes, go out to the neighborhood, and knock on a door and see what, start knocking on doors and see what happens. The worst thing that'll happen is people will not want to talk to you, and they can just say no, or they won't answer the door. And that's not going to be that big of a deal. And I'm speaking that as a local level thing. But Yvonne, you're absolutely right on a, and Curtis is too, which is probably going to be one of the few times that we're actually in agreement of something where it's all the technology has allowed people to go and just spew stuff without any fact checking. So then then there's fact checkers. There's factcheck.org, which is somewhat, I would say, than Snopes. I would not.
Right. That's immediately who I thought of. I was like,
yeah, exactly. And it all depends on what the agenda is, and when we're on one of the fastest growing video media platforms on the planet right now.
Mhm.
We're just three people who used to work together, and we've got this thing going. I mean, my God, we could spew all kinds of bullshit, you know.
Right.
And sorry
And
about the language. And
no, you're right.
and it
And
would
think
be
about
there's a lot of responsibility to this.
right. Yeah, think
And
about every the you know, percentage of viewers that would, you know, come across this or be exposed to us. And if we had strong opinions on something, it could come across as facts, right? We're just
you're
true
you're
people that,
you're absolutely right. You are.
you
And
know,
it's in yeah, and I
Well,
hate quoting other, you know, or being. I'm not trying to be trite or anything, you know. And here it's, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. There's a certain amount of truth to that statement.
yeah, I don't know about you guys, but everything I say is the absolute truth. I mean, it's factual.
well, I only speak the truth. I mean, for sure, if I say trust me, then you know right there. I mean, it's it. We don't have to go any further than that.
Yeah, well, this glass
And
is red.
as a friend, what's that?
This glass is red. So,
Yeah, yes, it is. And your hat is orange. I got that. Okay.
oh, I'm glad you noticed.
Mhm.
And for those of you
Curtis.
that are listening to this, you can actually view this on YouTube. You just go to the Huntsman Podcast on YouTube, and you can actually see us do this live. And we'll try to notify you when that's going to go live. But so, I mean, there's a visual aspect to this. It's just us, basically talking heads. But it might be interesting. And
Exactly.
if you have a question, you can ask via the chat on YouTube.
Yes, hopefully we'll get to that point where we see a lot of interactions. But kind of, Drew,
Right.
going back to what you were saying, like kind of leading up to all of this, I think it really just becomes the perfect storm, if you will, in today's world where we're facing a pandemic, right? COVID-19, and there's facts, there's false information, there's probably a blend of both. But how do we face this every single day and try to keep ourselves informed when it's almost just something like a beast that you can't keep up with?
That is a really good that's a very interesting proposition. You know, I mean, as far as I almost want to say it's trying to get your arms around an octopus. It's really a difficult thing to do because there's so many tenets to this thing, or I should say appendages to it, that what's true, what's not. I will say one thing though, that this disease, this illness, this pandemic, there's a vaccine that's been cranked out in record time.
Mm-hmm.
And it, you know, having worked in both local and federal government before and contracted and contracted with the government before,
Mm-hmm.
I am just pleasantly surprised that they were able, that well, they call it big pharma, but Pfizer and I can't think of the name of the other pharmaceutical companies that I've gone and, you know, cranked this thing out and, you know, went through all the correct testing, and we've got something in 11 months, and that's unheard of in human history. We're able to fight something, and that, you know, we're able to come up with something that will save lives, and which is unprecedented in the history of this country.
But it kind of, like, once again, how do we validate what we're being told, that we're getting the face value of what's going on with the pandemic and how the vaccine is going to help or turn this around, and who are the best candidates for it? That's what I feel like is just so overwhelming as an average person.
Right.
We're not, people like us, the average American, we're not going to be the celebrity or the politicians that have, you know, the privilege of money and status to get the best
Care.
you know, care coverage,
Yes.
right? So we have to look out for ourselves. And how do you make sound decisions in the world today where there's so many different outlets? We're all saying conflicting things. We're so polar opposites. You can just literally just flip a channel or go to one different platform and you can hear just such wildly vast, opinions and thoughts on it. And I think that's kind of where this whole topic is. How do you understand, validate the information in a crisis like this, the pandemic?
The initial in any crisis, and I was very fortunate to go through a lot of crisis management training in some of the jobs I've had before. And the FBI does a really good job of crisis management training. When the initial onset of an incident or crisis, there's two things that you're taught. That the first set of information that you get about any crisis or any emergency or anything that you come upon is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the second thing you should do is sit on your hands.
Okay.
And I agree with you. I do, Yvonne, that we're at this place where who's going to get what when? Who makes that decision? And of course there's the boogeyman under the bed crowd, the black helicopter bunch that are like, this is going to alter and change your DNA.
Yeah, they watched the movie The Legend, or I Am Legend, right?
Correct. Yeah.
If
you I'm sorry, Curtis, what?
I was going to give the vaccine to 2 of my cats, and if they turn, then my dogs will protect me from it.
Exactly.
Yes.
I stay mostly inside anyway, so it wouldn't really bother me too much if I really did take it and turned. Just don't come to the house because I'll be just pissed off.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh Jesus. This is going to be a great adventure, guys.
One of my best friends is a surgeon. And when they were talking about the vaccine, I texted him. I said, I just keep on thinking I am legend. When they talk about this vaccine.
See?
And he probably changed his cell phone number and blocked you, right?
Well, he agreed. He agreed. So,
yeah.
It's like in I Am Legend, the book, it was a cure for cancer, basically.
Right.
Right.
And everything was honky-dory for a while, but then it mutated and everyone started to turn.
Right.
Yeah, right. And there's a thing that I read back in, I came across some information in the 80s about, and this was this was some really way out there conspiracy thing about an artificial virus that was, developed, and you had to take this vaccine, and this vaccine caused you to have boils on your skin and all kinds of crazy shit, and again, sorry for the language. And it was just one of those things where you go, as we age, we mature, hopefully. I don't know about Curtis, but, and it's like, well, was that really true? Or was that just somebody saying something from a construct, that, just, really wasn't what really wasn't true, and
What was it?
I have no idea. And they were prophesizing something into the future.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm like, really? Are you kidding me? And it's like, I heard this, back in the 80s, and I'm like, oh, why do we remember things like that? So anyway,
I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with science, but they're actually taking samples from asteroids. So NASA just had a mission, and it plunged about 6 meters into an asteroid and took samples, and they're doing it to basically see the origins of the solar system and everything, right? So because
Mhm.
this stuff has been
Right.
untouched, and they wanted to get below the surface because the surface has been radiated for millions of billions of years, right?
Correct. Yes.
So they wanted to get below and get samples. But then there was a movie, I don't know if you guys remember it, called The Andromeda Strain. So,
Well, there was actually two of those made.
Right.
The original in the 60s, and then there was a remake of it. Yeah.
yeah,
Ricky
And
Schroeder
so-
was in the second.
right. So, and they brought something back, basically. So, I mean, that
Right. And they go in,
harkens-
they go into town and with the helicopter and the guys in the the moon suits, and they get the you've got a basically a practicing MD who's like, why are these people just like dropping dead?
right. So, anyway, just saying, you know. But,
Yes. So something else is coming.
Is
Something from space is coming.
so
Be the
if we
whole
get
other
here, we
thing.
can get somewhere else. So, come on. So,
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I think so I saw this documentary and I wished I would have prepped myself in advance to this podcast, but I saw this documentary years ago and I can't remember the name of it. I'm sure I can find it, but it was essentially kind of going back and talking about the polio vaccine. And so there were actually very similar to, what we know today, like several pharmaceutical companies, right, trying to come up with some type of vaccine. And
Right.
so when they were trying to come up with a vaccine or a cure for polio, there were like 3 or 4 different doctors that went to work on this. And one doctor actually went to Africa to figure out this vaccine for polio. Anyway, long story short, what they're saying is with what his practices were to try to come up with a vaccine is what led to AIDS. And it was
Wow.
because
That's a real
Yes.
stretch.
no, like seriously. So
Wow.
it was he was using cells from monkeys to develop his vaccine, and so he was testing the vaccine on the people in villages, and so that's where. And again, I'm doing a very poor
No, you're doing
synopsis of this. It was
Understand.
actually very, articulate and kind of laid it all out. But that's where the jump was, and that's basically, like I said, is what they're saying is it was because of this one particular doctor with him trying to develop this vaccine, and everything that he did. That's where it came from. That was actually the origin of it. I'll try to find the documentary and reference it and send it to you guys. But I also think about that. Like, remember, like that I am legend kind of sticks into your mind. Well, I
Mhm.
also think about that documentary as well. And I'm not saying that it's gospel. I'm not saying that everything in there is accurate. I mean, I have no idea. But I'm just saying that it sheds another light on some possibilities out there because at the end of the day, we're all just humankind, right? We're literally just human beings, just a guy. Yes, he's a doctor, a scientist, and highly intelligent. But at the end of the day, we're just human beings that are doing certain actions, and there's a cause and effect to everything. And so, once again, we're in the middle of a crisis. They have pushed this, vaccine lightning speed. And look, I get it. We need it. We need to move quickly, but at the same time, I think it only makes sense to sit back and have a little bit of pause and say, what are the repercussions of this? Because it's never been truly, trialed out. We're moving very quickly. There are going to be consequences from that. So just kind of a, taboo, if you will, type of comments, but just once again, in the vein of this conversation, it's like how do you sift through and make right decisions to take care of yourself and your family and your friends and do the right thing for your community, for your city, for your state, for the country. It just goes on and on.
It goes back to getting the best information that you can get, listening to the best info, and it's just like I don't want to say triage. It's a French word that it means choosing, sorting, picking, and it's something they use in emergency rooms across the country, across the planet, actually. And I would go and I would think that people have the ability on their phone to look this information, or their tablet or their computer, to look this information up and make an informed decision, or talk to someone that can give them an informed decision, and not just and not cherry pick, well, what sounds good today kind of thing.
Well, right, but there's an undetermined number of platforms, news services out there to get your information from.
Like a George Thorough. I'm sorry, I talked over you, Yvonne. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's it's like almost like a George Thorogood song. Who do you trust? Who do I? So, I would, and
right.
It's rough, and if I'm very lucky. I've got I worked in medicine for 6 years as a paramedic, which means nothing in the overall scheme of things. My wife has worked in medicine for all of her adult life, and we follow This Week in Virology, and there's things on there that even as a layman, I have to kind of like listen to a couple more times to kind of get an understanding of truly what is correct, or the best informed information to make the best informed judgment for the best informed decision.
Right. Yeah. And you know what, Drew? That actually kind of brought up something else. So it's not only about trying to get to the best, accurate source, but also having the ability to, kind of translate what they're saying to make, to where it makes sense to you. We're
Correct.
all kind of
to understand that level of to understand that information.
Right. And we're busy, stressed out adults.
Correct. Right.
And we're still trying to do this.
Working, gobs of hours a week.
Right.
So we can, be able to pay our bills.
Right. Pay your bills in the middle of an economic crisis. So, stress, impacts our ability to understand information, right? Absorb the information, communication, how we take care of ourselves. It's just all intertwined, and it's just a complete layer. So, actually the reference that you just mentioned, I've never heard of before. But I can guarantee you my parents have definitely never heard from it, and they're not going to go look at it. They don't,
right.
They don't have the internet. Believe it or not, they don't. Last time they had internet, it was like dial up. So then they just took it out because they were like, we don't need it. Yeah. Yes. But, so then it becomes, access to information. And anybody that's on a platform that that spreads a lot of false information, you can't convince them that it's false information. They should go to another platform because that's their comfort level. Some people don't want to step outside. Some people don't want to step outside of that either because they like and they believe and they feel good about it. And although it may be wrong, right. So how do 3 people change the world? How do we solve that? Because how do we change human behavior? Well, because we tell the truth. Yes, because trust me. There you go. So you said it. No. We're not asking people to trust us. We're trying to. One of the core values of the 3 of us was to go and if there's something we're not going to be putting out garbage here. We're not going to be putting out falsehoods. Now, granted, the information, down the road could be dated, but we're not going to be putting out stuff that's going to be, I don't want to harm anyone. I really don't. And I have no desire to do that. And I'm sure the other 2 of you don't either, No, not at all. With bad information, we're not going to do that. If we don't know, we're going to say we don't know. So, yeah, and I think, this this forum, what we're really doing, we're not handing out advice. We're not here to tell people to do one thing, not the other per se. We're here
Correct.
to kind of vet out, some of the concerns that are going on in the world today that are specifically tied to, COVID-19. And, and you actually said something that reminded me, like whenever you were kind of talking about in the crisis situation, one of the steps is to, kind of make a decision based upon the information that you have just, at that time, right? What at the time, right? Didn't you
Right.
say something like that?
Yeah, it was the crisis management module for model for the FBI in any crisis. The first set of information that you get about a crisis is wrong,
Right. So
and then the
what was the
second
next thing?
thing you show your hand, and you have to start pulling in information and going through it and sorting. And like I said, it's you're picking, sorting, choosing, like kind of like a triage thing. Well, this is, we don't need this part right now. It's not that it's garbage. It's just, it doesn't really affect this thing right now. We may want to look at it later, but not at this moment. Does that make any sense?
So yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of the crux of it, is a lot of information, because life moves so quickly. Information is being thrown at us so quickly that sometimes you really are just kind of making decisions based upon the information that just came out in the last 24 hours. And in today's world, news that came out yesterday is old news. So once again, how do you keep up with that? Knowing that you're still only going to.
It's almost a type of sensory overload,
Yes,
where
exactly.
you're, and it's like, well, what you've got to sit down, you've got to be intellectually honest enough with yourself to go through the information and go, well, wait a minute. And I'm not talking about taking 8 hours a day to do this, and the news said it, but long gone are the days of Walter Cronkite. I was talking to someone about that, someone today about that, and it's just, those days are gone. They really are, unfortunately. And we've got, like I said, we've got 3 people here right now. We could start all kinds of crazy nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And say, well, it's true, and create fictitious and I don't want to say nefarious, but fictitious things about our backgrounds and of what we do, and Curtis over there was mad scientist, veterinarian stuff or whatever, and yeah, exactly. But it's just a matter of a person going through and absorbing and trying to understand the material that's being presented, to validate, to verify that information, and go, okay, I kind of agree with that. I really do. But I wouldn't take anything from, what's Anderson's first name from the CNN guy. I can't think of his name right now. I'm thinking one of the talking heads from CNN.
I don't watch.
Oh, this is going to drive me. What's his? Anderson Cooper. That's it. Anderson Cooper said this today. Well, is it true or is it not? And if it is true, well, how do you know it's true? So.
Yeah, I mean, kind of talking about like, CNN, a news outlet, then obviously on the other end of the spectrum, is Fox News. And, and I think they're really licensed to be, an entertainment station, not really a news station. So, where's do they have the same accountability of other truly, sanctioned news channels when it comes to making sure that accurate information is being, given out? And it kind of reminds me of when, we were talking about sensory overload, right? I think a lot of people today, like whenever we want to reference, some, great book or something like 1984, where they want to, it's basically Big Brother, right? That's what we're turning into. I actually don't think so. I actually think this is what we're living is really more from the book Brave New World, and what they did in order to kind of control the population was that constant, information overload to the point where what we're seeing today is like you don't know what direction to go into, so you're really just kind of going blind because of the sensory overload.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that was going to be one of the last points of what I thought about for this evening's episode or edition. Curtis, is this an episode or an edition? Which is it? What are we calling this?
Yes.
Yeah. The man with all the answers, ladies and gentlemen. The man at the helm of this thing.
Yeah. The guy with the switches just said yes. So
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Good.
Sure. Whatever you want to call it.
Is it left or is it right? Yes. But anyway, news organizations still have in place what's called an ombudsman. And that is a person that will go and who is actually not involved with gathering the information. But if somebody on the outside has a complaint, they'll look at it and they'll go, okay. And it's a more of an internal review of what has happened or what was said that was not correct. Back in the 80s, there were, I don't remember the news if it was NBC or CBS, but someone was crashing cars into pickup trucks and showing that they could, explode and blow up. And however, the experiment was rigged, so it would, and they got a lot of trouble for that. I mean, Dan Rather got fired for, from CBS back in the 2000s, saying something that was almost egregious about George W. Bush. During the his reelection. Words have consequences; they really do.
yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially considering words, what you say, what you type. They're very powerful. You can you can incite a war with words. You can tear somebody down with words. So yeah, absolutely, very powerful. Exactly. And communication is definitely key. And it's what you do with it. The responsibility. Are you responsible with your words? Are you responsible with your actions?
Be a good person and just try to do good things.
Yes.
I mean that would be, an overall, these are like a really good friend of mine, my best friend, actually, we discussed this once years ago. And he said, it would be great if we could just abide by the rules when we were in kindergarten. Wash your hands after you go to the bathroom, pick up your toys when they're done, be nice to others, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I definitely think we hold our kids to a higher standard than what we as adults actually conduct ourselves.
Exactly, Yvonne.
Yeah.
Well, Curtis, the man with the switches, you got anything else or what?
I have nothing. You guys have carried this whole thing today, so
Curtis is like Oz. He's the man in the background behind the curtain doing
pulling
everything.
The switches, right? Yeah.
See, I'm at home right now because I'm supposed to be under quarantine because I was exposed to somebody that had COVID. Actually, my father, who's 87, and he's one of the right, the high risk category guys. Yeah, but he had a cough, and so he said, "Well, just go get tested." Then he came back positive. My mom, who lives with him, of course, 87 too, she came back negative. And so then I mentioned at work that, my father was positive. And so then now I have to stay home. I went and took a test.
So how long until he can take another test?
He's taking one tomorrow.
When was his first test done, though? His
first test was last Tuesday. Today is Sunday, so he'll be taking one tomorrow.
Was that a requirement, though, to have that many days in between?
I am not quite sure if it's a requirement or that was just the next available day. So they called him, I want to say they called him Friday.
Okay.
Well, he didn't get his test results. I didn't find out his test results until Friday. So maybe they called him on Saturday and told him. But there's no testing place up in north of here. They were open to 10 to 6, I think. And then, but the city I live in, they aren't open on Saturday and Sunday. So he's going to go Monday, and my mom's going to go ahead and get tested again, even though she was negative. So
Right.
she'll get tested again. I'm kind of thinking that was a false positive.
Positive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he had a cough, though. So maybe his just symptoms were mild, you know.
Right.
My
Yeah,
mom
I
has a
mean, one.
pacemaker, so she's in
Oh,
high risk.
goodness.
You know, I
Yeah.
got high blood pressure. Supposed to be. Well, actually, I was pre-hypertensive, but my wife goes, she's a nurse, and she goes, "There's no such thing as pre-hypertensive. Either you have high blood pressure or you don't."
Right. Exactly.
I love it.
So they put me on lisinopril, but I can't take a whole lisinopril. I got to take a half a lisinopril. Lisinopril
Okay.
is a very, very mild high blood pressure medication.
Mhm.
It can cause, there's some side effects, none of which I experience. So
Mhm.
it's just like, and then even at a half a lisinopril, sometimes my blood pressure, I think, gets too low. So,
Mm.
but apparently I have high blood pressure. So
Yeah,
Go
it's
f-
one of
go
those things.
figure.
Actually, it's very hard to actually control with medicine. I think it just seems like what you're saying. You could very easily take yourself down too low, which is a problem within itself. So,
and how much
but
of it?
so because you have high blood. Mhm.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so since you have high blood pressure, so is that an at-risk category as well? Is that what you were saying?
Apparently it is. So,
Mm, okay.
but I don't know, you know, I don't think too much about it, to tell you the truth. So I know that
Yeah.
I have to have a DOT physical every year. So because of high blood pressure. And
Mm.
then, I thought, well, if I lost 40 pounds, because I need to lose 40 pounds, if I lost 40 pounds, maybe I could be undiagnosed, but I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if you can undiagnose.
Well, I think because I have high blood pressure as well, and I've had it since 1995, I think. And once you have it, you always have it. Even with weight
you're
loss.
you're just a ray of sunshine.
Oh yeah, right. I am. So and Yvonne is spot on with this about if you take the wrong too much of the wrong thing too much medication that can bottom you out. But they're using older meds that are really really old, and old things do work really well. There's
Yeah,
beta blockers that are out there, and I've been using for years, and it's good. It's fine. It works for me. And it all depends on what the
Lisinopril's been out forever. So I think it cost me like $2
right
for a month, right? And it has some
30
side
days
effects.
worth.
People can
Yeah.
get a cough. It maybe causes a cough in some people, and there's some
I've
side effects.
I've
to
heard
it.
that about some hypertensive medication will and that's just a side effect, So
Yeah. So my
and
wife had
it's
to cut me into half. So she cut because my blood pressure was getting too low. So she started. We got a little pill cutter, and I'm cutting them in half, and
cutting you in half or cutting the pills in half.
take your pick. So
Mm-hmm.
my wife has a cutting personality, so I don't know. So
Actually, for the audience, his wife is a very lovely person. So I mean, she's very nice, and
yeah, she talks like Marge Simpson's sister.
Okay.
What are you doing over there?
if you say so.
Did you spend money? I get that.
We are at
What did you just buy?
we
Your
are at
Amazon
50
accounts.
Yeah, exactly.
could be
You're at
anything.
okay.
I didn't tell her I've got a Sweetwater credit card. I didn't say anything about that. So,
Sweetwater credit card. I like that.
Oh,
We are at we're
Catnip
at
for
58
fat
minutes.
guys.
It's the what?
Catnip for fat guys. It's the
Okay,
slightly.
good. I'll look that up.
It's just like you're just if you're a gadget guy like I am, I'm just drawn to electronics and things like that. So, but used to be B&H photo, but I've gone more into audio gear and stuff, guitars. I don't even play a guitar, and I've got 3. So it's,
You have all the essentials. Yeah.
Yeah,
Why would she complain about how much money you've spent? I mean,
don't
Jesus.
understand it, Yvonne. I just
Oh, God.
women.
Damn women, I'm telling you. Chicks, man. Chicks.
I want to buy a new computer, and she's like, "Well, why do you have a iMac 27-inch iMac? I've got a Mac Mini upstairs, and I've got a iPad, and I've got a MacBook Air, and I wanted to buy one of the new M1 Macs." And she goes, "Why do you need another computer?" I said, "Well, need is,
A very subjective term.
I just want it, So,
So I
some
I
desk
think you
space.
should edit this part out because people are gonna come and get all Curtis's stuff. You just like named off all kinds of.
Oh, these are valuables, right?
Well, and I'm
Here's
shooting
my
on an
inventory list.
my camera's A6400, and then I've got this Nikon Z7 here,
No,
and then I've got a
dude,
medium
you're
format
crazy.
camera
He
back there.
is.
Yeah.
He is.
But you can never have too many cameras.
You really can't.
It was
I
my
just,
profession for years, so I just
yeah.
kinda
Well,
collect
that
stuff.
actually is true. Yes.
So,
We are 59 minutes into our first episode. Do we want to
Uh,
knock it off an hour? We want to go a little bit longer, or what would you guys like to do?
well, I think we've just about covered it. Tell you the truth, for this time.
I think so too. Our first one, I think we did okay. A
Not
year
bad,
from now,
not
when
bad.
we look back, we may laugh at this.
Yeah, we're gonna say
episode.
how bored it was.
We're gonna be like,
horrible
oh,
we were.
shit. They're gonna be like, well, why didn't Curtis say anything?
Yeah.
Well, he waited until the end to give us his whole inventory list of all of his equipment.
Oh yeah, and then I even talked about microphones. So I've got I've got this microphone.
my
I'm talking about,
God.
and then I got this microphone over here, just because I might need two, and then I've got 4 over there on the shelf, and then I've got a Neumann TLM 103 in the booth over there. Yeah. So
Curtis, you're killing me. You're killing me.
me like
Edits.
doing
We're gonna have
Crazy, I'm
edits on
telling you,
this.
you're-
no, it's all
Yeah,
gonna be
yeah, exactly.
So, all right, guys.
Well,
All
yeah.
right. Like before Curtis starts taking us around with the camera and showing us
It's
all
it's
of the
pretty
stuff.
much wired
Right.
down
Exact-
right now.
exact-
Well, I could maybe take it. No,
Ex-
okay. For those of you
All
who
right. We
would like-
listening
we would-
to our podcast,
we would-
please visit us at YouTube at the Huntsmen Podcast. Just do a search, and YouTube will pop it up, and then you can actually see our insanity as well as listen to it. And those of you who are listening to this podcast for the very first time, we apologize so
Yeah.
profusely, and we promise we'll do better next time.
Hey, we did a good job. We
I
did
think
good.
so. Yeah, not bad for a
We
couple.
did
For 3 amateurs. So
Yeah.
All right, Drew, Yvonne, until next time.